Survivor 41 Episode 10 recap coming your way. This episode was the best episode by far in the season and in Survivor in general in a very long time. What this episode excelled at was diving into the human relationships between the players in this game. Didn't need to go all fancy schmancy with the new advantages and twists. It was an old school episode that really boiled down to players battling moral conflicts, because that's what Survivor is. It's a moral conflict. You're lying to people, you're deceiving people, you're telling people one thing and then doing other actions. We don't have that much of an opportunity to do this in everyday society, and then you're thrown into an environment where that's encouraged to get yourself further in the game. So you're doing selfish behavior in order to advance your chances. And it just played out beautifully this episode. Spoiler, I already said it before, but your last chance, spoilers from here on out. We saw the powerhouse threat of Season 41 Survivor, Shan, eliminated tonight. And the reason that she was eliminated was she broke the cardinal rule in Survivor. She got too comfortable and assumed, she put her trust in her people and assumed that she'd be okay. But the problem is when you do that with an individual immunity idol in your pocket, it's like, I don't feel sad for you to go home, because how good of a player could you actually be if you were able to get blindsided that badly? I mean, you were running the entire game. You were the perceived threat, number one, calling all the shots. It was interesting because Shan and Deshawn had this big feud, and she felt like she couldn't trust him. But in the end of the day, her and Liana ended up voting for Erica, and Deshawn, Danny, and Ricard took that opportunity to flip on Shan, and it worked. The scorpion bit the whatever. Don't know what analogy I'm trying to use there, but hey, that's the game. You can't take it personally in this game. You can't bring emotions into the game. And the big moral dilemma that specifically Shan and Deshawn were colliding about was this idea of the culture. They said it in their discussions that how they wanted to do this final four of the Black Alliance for the culture after the year 2020. It was such a rough year. They wanted to bring all four of those black players into the final tribal. And Shan and Liana ultimately wanted to do that. But I can't really blame Deshawn for going against their talks, because he was targeting Ricard. Okay, Shan's number one, and Danny and Deshawn, they go over to Liana and they say, we need to get out Ricard. Liana snitches on them, goes straight to Shan, and Shan, for whatever reason, she's not the target. Ricard's the target. She should be fine. Danny and Deshawn are not going against the Black Alliance in this scenario. If they were, they would be telling Liana that Danny and Deshawn are going for Shan, but that's not what happened. They were targeting Ricard. But Shan kind of took that very personal, because they were saying how they'd play the entire game together, and it wasn't the right time. After Ricard won Reward Challenge, he brings Shan, and they focus in on their conversation saying, hey, eventually, only one of us can win. And we're going to have to go over, get each other at one point. And Shan wasn't willing to do it yet. Meanwhile, Ricard, he's actually playing the game. He realizes they are gunning for me. Danny and Sean are gunning for me, and they have no reason so far to believe that they would go against this Final Four Black Alliance. So if I don't break up one of them, particularly Shan, who's running the show, then I'm just going to be out next week. So even though I have immunity this week, they're just going to get me next week. I'm not really surprised by it, but Shan tells Ricard about Danny and Deshawn's plan. And Ricard is like, I'm surprised you would tell me that's not a good game move. You could have just got me out and it would be a great blindside. Good on you. I would vote for you for $1 million. But it got to the point where she was playing so much with her emotions that she didn't want to vote anyone out. She didn't want to go after the Black Alliance, even though she had told Liana that we have to vote for Deshawn. She didn't want to go after Ricard, her number one, even though that's what her alliance wanted to do. Instead, she wanted to get out Erica because she didn't have as close of a relationship with Erica. And it wasn't the best move for Shan because she got so caught up into these personal relationships. She flew too close to the sun. That's the way I can describe Shan's gameplay, because she was attack. And then she's got all these strong relationships. At some point, you're going to have to cut one of them off and make that big move to blindside them. But she wasn't willing to do that. And that's what ended up getting Shan in the end of the day. But I can't really blame Deshawn and Danny for flipping on them. So we get to Tribal Council, and Shan is eliminated after the review. I'm going to talk about the Tribal Council in just a minute. But just to end this train of thought, okay, Shan goes to Ricard after she's eliminated and says, Ricard, you have my vote for $1 million. Deshawn, you're a snake. And then she walks away. Now, she could have been just joking. She's in the heat of the moment. She just got eliminated. She was blindsided. There's a lot of emotions there. I get it. She probably doesn't necessarily mean all of those words, but she says them. So what does that mean? Well, okay, if you're saying that, Ricard, you have my vote for $1 million, that's just pointing a big target on Ricard. So if he's your ally, just shush. Don't say anything. Ricard's probably just sitting there like, damn, like, why, Shan? Why did you have to say that? Now they're going to go after me. They've already been trying to go after me. Danny and Deshawn told you that they're going after me. I'm already public enemy number one, especially since I just got rid of you. So now you're just adding insult to injury. And then by saying, Shan goes, Deshawn, you're a snake. Okay. Is Deshawn a snake for going against this Black Alliance? Well, let's think about it. Danny and Deshawn, okay, their original plan was to go after Ricard, which is not part of their Black Alliance. They're not going against it, okay? Shan goes over and snitches on their plan to Ricard. And then Ricard confronts Deshawn about it, saying, I know you're gunning for me. So, yeah, how can you call Deshawn a snake? He didn't target you until you gave him, Shan. You gave him a reason to target you because you went against him. Like, this is a person in your alliance. They're going after Ricard. Okay, yeah, I understand you've been tight with Ricard, but you always had this understanding that you've had to get each other out at some point, and this was the time that they felt like it was necessary. Obviously, everything changed when Ricard won individual immunity, and they shifted their focus. All right, let's get out Erica. But at that point, Shan had already gone against Danny and Deshawn, snitched on their plan. So Deshawn and Danny could probably say the same thing about Shan. You're a snake for going behind our backs about this plan. We came to you, and I think there was other conversations had, because initially they said, we're going to have to go ahead forward with this plan without Shan knowing, which I get that might seem like it's a little snaky at that point. But they didn't really show any other discussions because it seemed like Leanna was the one to break the news to Shan. So maybe he is a little snaky. I'm thinking about it a little bit more. I've watched this episode twice, and I'm still thinking about the dynamics. That's how good this episode was. There was no advantages, no wasted time or anything. All right, let's go back to the tribal council itself. Going in, essentially, we have one of two options. It's either going to go Erica or Shan. Ricard flips the switch and says, I want Shan out because if I don't do this now, then I'm just next on the totem pole. This Black Alliance is going to steamroll the game, make the Final Four. I don't want that. I was very impressed with how Heather and Erica played this episode. Masterful. It's very subtle, but they deserve so much credit for how they approached Danny. Okay, because Erica recognizes, okay, they're voting for me, but I don't want anything to part. I don't want to risk an idol play or anything. Okay, if we put all our votes on Shan, then she plays the idol. I'm out. I don't want that. So she comes up with the idea, let's split the votes, 3 on Liana, 3 on Shan. And essentially they have to convince Danny and Deshawn to do that with them because all the 4 other people, Ricard, Heather, Erica, and Xander, they're on board with this plan. Danny and Deshawn, they have to decide, are we going to vote out Erica or are we going to split the votes, vote out 1 Liana, 1 for Shan? And by them doing the split votes, 1 on Shan, 1 on Liana, that means they are more willing to get out Liana, another person in the Black Alliance, than they are Erica, who everyone keeps saying is the biggest threat. Even after Erica explains the split vote plan, Danny says to her, says in the confessional, hearing Erica concoct this plan just proves how big of a threat she is. So if that was the case, why not just risk it that Shan is going to play the idol and get out Erica? Why is the backup to get out Liana? And one of them said, I forget who said it, Danny or Deshawn, they said, the only thing I don't like about this plan is that Liana's involved in it. Because essentially, Liana's lost their trust. She's not going to vote with them at all. Danny and Deshawn just lost an ally there. They lost a number there. And I'm not really sure how much power Liana has by herself anyway, but that's still a number that you didn't even have to alienate to begin with. You could have just done 4 votes Shan, 4 votes Erica. If Shan plays the idol, then Erica's out. So it was interesting how Erica and Heather were able to execute that. It was brilliant. And they did it in such a subtle way. They approached Danny and made him spit out all the information. They were asking him questions. Would you do that? Is that something that you would do? Who's the biggest threat? They just asked him questions. Let him guide the plan. Or make him think he's guiding the plan. And it worked out perfectly. They said they want to split the votes. They want to get out Liana. They didn't say, this is what I want to do. Because if they did that, then he may have not followed it. And he would have been like, all right, no, Erica's way too strong. Shan, play your idol. Let's do this. Even though at that point, I think the plan was to get out Shan as the number 1, Liana's the backup. But it's interesting how it went from Erica being the backup, I guess, to Liana being the backup. So that was a really strong move, I think, from Heather and Erica. It just goes to show in this game, idols really aren't all that powerful. You're at the final 8. I'm shocked that Shan didn't play her idol. If she had, then Liana would have gone home, but she would have had, well, at that point, I mean, she wouldn't really have had a majority alliance anymore. That would have torn it up. But at least she would have still been in the game and she would have had an opportunity to win an individual immunity. She already has such an impressive resume that She's done enough in the game to win. So what are you waiting for to play the idol? I never understand that. It's like no one ever plays their idol in this game, especially this season. We're never seeing it. So I think moving forward, I think Ricard's in trouble. Last week I had him winning. I thought he was for sure going to win. Here, I'll put it this way: if Ricard does make the final three, he's gonna win, no doubt about it, no doubt at all. However, that's 4 eliminations. That's gonna be tough because everyone's gonna be coming for Ricard moving forward. He got out the big Titan, Shan. He pulled that off, and he's already won 2 individual immunities. He's been winning challenges left and right. He's well connected on the jury, and he's gonna win if he makes it. So they got to recognize that. I also think Erica is in a really, really strong spot. Everyone keeps saying that she's sneaky, she's tough, she's going to be well connected and have the potential to win. Danny said it this last episode. So I think those are going to be probably the 2 targets moving into next week. And of course, Jeff has to ruin what is turning out to be an actually good season of Survivor with another twist. The previews for next week say, another twist. Jeff, this episode was so good. There was no twists, no advantages. It was just raw human relationships and strategy. That's all it was. And it was amazing. And it worked out great. And when you're in the top 7, the final 7, you're going to throw something new to disrupt that? Doesn't make any sense to me. So power rankings going into, I think there's only 3 episodes left. I think Ricard is worthy of being number 1. Will he win? After this week, I'm very skeptical because he just made a big splash, and there's still a lot of game left. I think Ricard is number 1. If he makes it to the finals, I'm putting Erica number 2. She is very well positioned, flying under the radar. The lion hiding into the whatever she called her. It's starting to come out a little bit. If she makes the finals against the right people, if she's paired up against a Heather or a Liana or even Xander, Xander, I feel like has garnered no respect with anyone in this game for any of the moves that he's done. So Xander, maybe he's getting a good edit on TV, but I feel like no one even cares that he has an idol or an extra vote. And if they're playing a game where that's not even a factor, that's not necessary, and that he can't even use that as a good move for his game, then he's not going to get any attention at the final tribal. So it's kind of hard to see Xander winning this thing. So I think power rankings are 1, Ricard, 2, Erica, and 3 is Heather, because Heather's the last remaining person that I picked in the final 3. And she's coming alive. I'm telling you guys, she's coming alive. This is a great episode. I watched it twice. I think it's definitely worth watching twice. Something subtle that they did was that they changed the music after the revote at Tribal Council. If you didn't notice that the first time, take a look back. It was almost like they were paying a tribute to the game that Shan had played, that they weren't even trying to disguise it. They were accepting it. They showed Ricard's full confessional, pretty much telling the audience, like, yeah, this is happening. Shan is going home. So it was a really, really neat thing. I liked all the conversations that all the players had in today's episode. So let's see what happens next time. I'm excited. Final 7. I'll see you guys next week. Pew!